You've heard me say it a million times around man sewing. Having the perfect tool for the job is key, and taking care of those perfect tools is super important as well. So today I've got a fantastic tutorial to make your very own sewing machine cover that's a custom fit. Let's get started. That's right, I'm super excited to walk you through how I made a custom fit cover for my baby lock Jane. And check it out, I even fooled the cameraman this morning. He thought it was a professionally made cover because it fits so well. And the reason it fits so well is I actually started by measuring my machine and creating a printable so that you can follow along. So please, before we get started, just bounce into the description, print out your printable so you know what I'm talking about, and you can follow along as we get ready to start to measure our machine and prepare to use the chalk cloth, which is a great supply for this. Now, the reason I used the chalk cloth is I wanted to have a non-porous material, something that wouldn't let the dust inside the machine. It's a cover. My machine's always set up at home, so I can just come right over, take that off, and get back to sewing. I forgot to point out while the cover is on, I even left a little bit of extra room so my power cords were still connected. So it's a very convenient cover. If you'll stick with me to the end of the video today, I'll show you if you want to put a handle hole in the top, we can do that, and even some really cool chalk pen markings on the chalk cloth, which is the other reason I chose it, because you can draw all over this stuff. It's great. But let's get back to those measurements. And we've got a little bit of work to do still today. So I want you to measure your machine. This is a baby lock Jane, so if you're using a Jane or a Juki or any of these kind of single straight stitch needles, you can just follow my math. But if you're not, then what you're going to do is you're going to measure your machine, kind of use your finger to secure and get a good grip and see what your number is. So I'm coming right down here. So this would be a 17-inch machine on that measure there. And so therefore on the printable it says add 1 inch, and it's only 1 inch. It's not an inch to both sides. So if it was a 17-inch machine, now my length is going to be 18 inches. And you're going to want to measure your length, your height, and the width of the machine to prepare your panels. And you're going to build a total of 5 pieces to make the entire cover. So if you're building for like a Jane or a Juki or a Brother or some kind of machine like that that's a single stitch machine, my front and my back, my large pieces, following my notes here, were 17.5 by 14.5. Okay, now my side pieces that go up the sides here, those are 14.5 by 8. And then the top piece that comes in along the top is gonna be 8 by 17.5. And so there are all 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 pieces, and that's all we need to build the entire cover. Now, let's go ahead and build the strip that goes all the way around first by joining that top piece to their sides. We're gonna go right sides together right over here. And at my sewing machine today, I do have polyester thread in the top and in the bobbin, but I did that for structure and strength. Polyester is a little bit stronger than cotton, but I'm still just using a standard 1/4 inch seam allowance and my edge guide here. My math was set to that number. So that's why I'm pointing it out that I had added the seam allowance appropriately there. So we're just going to stitch through that side there, and then I'm going to bring over my other side onto my top piece here. And this chalk cloth sounds really nice, or sews really nice. A Sharp's size 80 needle is a great choice for that as well. Okay, now I have my top sides. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, and make sure, because these were slight rectangles, that you have everything in the proper orientation. We're going to sew this piece on. We're going to go down, around, and back up. So as I set it here, I'm right sides together. And now as I come to the machine, I am going to point out, and I'm going to remember, because it's really important for the second lap, that we're going to call this the band. The band is on the feed dogs right now. And the second side, I'm going to want that to happen just the same. So here we go. I'm going to back stitch at the top to secure it. And I'm going to sew heading down to that bottom corner. And the spool is going somewhere else for a little while. We'll see how that works out for the rest of this shoot. It should be okay. It's down there and gravity's working for me. This is real important here. What we're going to do is we're going to sew all but up to that 1/4 inch, right where the side and the top met up, I can feel that seam in there. So right there is going to be my pivot point. So I'm going to come in and I can feel it. Boom, the needle just hit right at that seam. Now I'm going to rotate the front panel around onto that band. I'm going to give a little encouragement with those first few stitches, make sure everything goes smoothly. And we're off and running. And we'll do the same at the next corner. Thread's still doing it well, by the way, down there on the floor. Because it is. Okay, coming into that corner again, I'm waiting until I can feel that and then stopping at the 1/4 inch mark. I'm going to pivot around. Whenever you have thick fabrics like this, we have a tendency to push or pull on our seams. Don't do that. Just let the machine do the work. I've got a little extra pressure here with my couple front fingers, and I'm just going to let the feed dogs though engage and pull that through as I come over that bulk. And we're coming to the top. So I'm going to back stitch there again, and we have a really nice union where that came out over there. And again, I just want to point out the key to making everything fit well is to make sure that this band stays on the feed dogs for the second time sewing around as well. So that means that I'm going to take this just like it is and I start to bring it over to the machine to remind myself. I'm going to bring my rectangle for the front in, make sure it is in the correct orientation, and then it's going to be right sides together on this first corner down here. So the other way to say it is I'm kind of starting on the same side that I finished on. And that's going to help those corners be the same math at the corners. I'm going to backstitch to lock that in. There's a little more bulk at this point, so I'm going to take a little bit shorter runs of stitching until I get all the material up on the table for myself here. Okay, as we're coming out of caffeinated mode, I just wanted to point out that I did use those same strategies in the corners. And now as I come around down here at the bottom, that final locking back stitch, I have the cover itself completely set up. Now what we want to do, it won't unravel, but I still want a really nice finished edge. So I'm going to go ahead and take a second and come through here and snip any loose threads I have. And then I'm just going to do a single fold where I roll this up and bring it on over to the sewing machine. So one of the things I want to look at when I do this is I want that same distance all the way around. So I'm going to now use my edge guide just the same. And I'm going to start in kind of one of the longer runs. I'm not starting right in a corner. I never do, as a matter of fact. I start near the corner where I can hide my start and stop, but I try not to start ever right in the corner because often it's a little extra bulky there on this kind of a job. And now what I've got is I've got the fabric folded over. I have my edge guide lining it up. I'm basically about 1/4 inch over. I'm going to take a couple stitches to lock this in, and I'm just going to now do a nice, basically a hem around the bottom of this. And this is really for aesthetics. We don't need the construction here, but technically the math was built in when we measured by adding that extra inch. Now I'm going to point out as I'm starting to come towards my corner at the bottom, let me fold this so you can kind of see what's happening. You have all of the 3 layers that came over here. So what I want to try to do is I want to fold this into the interior. And as I roll this up, I'm going to fold at the hem both of the seams into the short side panel. And if that sounds like a lot of words, listen to it in replay. Give yourself a decaf recap and listen to it. It'll make sense. But there's that one corner folding into the short edge, and I'm folding the other one the opposite direction. And that's just for uniformity. One of the things I love in Lego and in sewing is doing the same thing on both sides of the project. And we're just going to bring this around. And let me just finish this corner here But instead of finishing out the entire top stitch, I promised you I would show you a couple of other little details. So what I'm going to do real quick is just slide this out of the way, because some of you may want a wonderful cover for transporting to classrooms, but then you're going to need a handle cut out. So one of the things I did do here is I made a handle in the top piece. So again, you would figure out all of the math of the 5 pieces you need. This is the top piece, the piece that goes over here. And then if your handle is centered, you're going to find your center point both laterally and vertically center point. And then I basically measured 1 inch on either side, keeping in concept how long my handle would be. And then let me actually just show you by cutting this. Actually, it might make life a little bit easier. When I go to cut this out, I did cut the exterior here. And of course you could use your ruler to keep your hand safe. I'm going to cut here and here, basically right on the lines, to remove that centerpiece for where the handle would be. But I also want to point out, I'm going to give myself about 1/2 inch worth cut diagonally at each corner this way, so that while I'm stitching this, just like with that bottom hem, which is going to be a single fold, I can roll this back out of the way, and now you can see here the way it fits, and that would make a wonderful handle opening in the top. But as a reminder, I used the chalk cloth, 1, to keep the dust out, and 2, because you can draw on it. That's right. We also have these fantastic markers you can use. So here's a fun example of me doing the Mansewing sewing machine on here. Now, it is technically a chalk, which means it's dried and it's permanent. That's why I love it. So I can put it on the machine. I can decorate the machine cover, I should say, and it works cool on glass and all that kind of stuff. Put my decorations on there. But if I made a mistake, excuse me if this is rude, I can get it wet and wipe it away. I can redo it. I can basically erase with a wet rag and come back to it and remark it, but it's still dry enough that it won't really wipe away as a cover. So I could write myself notes like, "Power tool, please spend time with me," on the cover of my fantastic custom cover there on my sewing machine. So anyways, I know I got a little goofy at the end, but one of the things I love so much in creating these projects every week for all of us is thinking of the things that I need in my life, I need in my sewing room, and then making it a little bit more fun and entertaining, like drawing on it at the end. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I would love to hear from you what you're going to write on the outside of your chalk cloth sewing machine cover. We'll see you next time at Mansewing. Oh, hey, are you still in here? I thought you would have been checking out some of those other great videos. You know, we've got a link there, over there. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you never miss a minute of the action. We'll catch you next time at Mansewing.